When we were 17, Chunanyu promised we'd get into Tsinghua University together. That was until he fell for the school beauty. They skipped class to run wildly in the rain, got into fights with local troublemakers, and ended up at cheap motels and abortion clinics. Their love was a passionate, dramatic spectacle, like the protagonists in some angsty teen novel. While I was stuck in my baggy school uniform, shuttling between home and school, they mocked me as a bookworm, wasting my youth. That year, both of them failed the college entrance exam, their scores only good enough for a junior college. Meanwhile, as the provincial top scorer, I stood before all the students to give a speech. My gaze swept over my childhood friend in the audience, who was watching me with a complicated expression, and I gripped the microphone. I've never believed that youth has to be wild. True youth is about learning to take responsibility for your own life. 1. On the day of the final exam results, I found out I had moved up from second place to become the top student in my grade. My teacher congratulated me, but there was a hint of regret in her expression. You and Chunanyu have always been close. How did his grades drop so much recently? He used to be top of the class, and now he's fallen to over 200th place. Another teacher shook her head and said with the frustration of seeing potential wasted, puppy love, that's why, that Xia Jiqing is the same. She doesn't study herself and she's leading a good student astray. I slipped out of the office quietly. As I passed through the hallway, I saw Chunanyu and Xia Jiqing sharing a cigarette. Xia Jiqing blew a cloud of minty smoke into Chunanyu's face, then, with a laugh, tucked the cigarette between his lips. He didn't refuse, taking a practiced drag and exhaling a plume of smoke. He wasn't wearing his school uniform. Instead, he had on a black skullprint t-shirt. A matching couple's item with Xia Jiqing. Xia Jiqing spotted me, nudged Chunanyu, and said with a smirk, "Isn't that your childhood friend? Go say hi, she's the top student in our grade now, you know." Chunanyu glanced at me, his gaze calmly shifting away as he uttered two words from his thin lips, boring. 2. The very next day, Chunanyu's parents were called into school. He had gotten into a fight with a school bully over Xia Jiqing. That guy was Xia Jiqing's ex-boyfriend, and couldn't resist taunting them when he saw them together. Xia Jiqing couldn't swallow the insult and egged Chunanyu on to beat him up. Chunanyu listened to her, and with one punch, broke the other guy's nose. Mrs. Chu, a pampered lady of leisure, had to humble herself, apologizing to the teacher and the other parents, her eyes welling up with tears she couldn't hold back. Standing to the side, Chunanyu held Xia Jiqing's hand tightly. The homeroom teacher, furious and unable to contain herself, stood up and began to berate him. "Just look at how far your grades have slipped this time, over 200 places. Don't you understand? The college entrance exam is like 1,000 troops trying to cross a single log bridge. A difference of 0.1 points can put a whole stadium's worth of people ahead of you. How can you be so irresponsible to yourself? And even if we entertain the idea that you absolutely had to have a puppy love fling, you should have gone for Qiao Yang. Aren't you too close? Why on earth would you pick someone like..." She glanced at Xia Jiqing, who was idly chewing gum off to the side, frowned, and swallowed the words she was about to say. "Chunanyu, this is completely irresponsible of you." Chunanyu looked up, his tone laced with almost a hint of sarcasm. "How can Qiao Yang even compare to Jiqing?" The teacher slammed the test papers onto the desk. "Why can't she be compared to Xia Jiqing? Qiao Yang is now the top student in the grade." Chunanyu's expression remained blank. "She's just a boring bookworm who only knows how to cram, utterly dull." "That's right, teacher," Xia Jiqing said, tucking a strand of her big, wavy hair behind her ear. Her smile held a coquettish charm that seemed beyond her years. "What's youth without a little madness, otherwise? Aren't you just wasting your life?" Chunanyu was feeling rather irritated. "Can you please stop linking me with Qiao Yang all the time? There's never been anything between us." He stopped mid-sentence as his eyes met mine. Just as I walked in from the doorway, arms full of notebooks, I lowered my gaze and said nothing. He's right, I thought. There was never anything between us to begin with. We simply kept each other company through the first decade or so of our lives. 3. Chunanyu and I are childhood sweethearts. We were born in the same hospital, one right after the other, and have been inseparable since the day we opened our eyes, from childhood onward. Chunanyu's life and mine have followed almost identical paths. We would do our homework together after school, go to the library together during holidays, and compete for the top spot during exams. Chu's mom often joked about me becoming her daughter-in-law. I would blush and protest every time, but deep down, I felt a secret delight. Who wouldn't like Chu Nanyu? He'd call me an idiot for twisting my ankle, but then gently carry me home on his back. He was always the first to stand up for me whenever someone tried to push me around. He'd even sneak through my window at night, lie on my bed with his hands behind his head, and ask, "Xiao Yang, what if we both try to get into Tsinghua University together?" I'm a bit embarrassed and don't want to answer directly. I haven't decided where to go yet. He rolled over, propped his chin in his hand, and looked at me earnestly, his eyes brimming with amusement. "Come on. We've been together for over a decade. You really want to split up now?" I looked into his amber eyes, and my heart suddenly began to race. "What if I don't get in?" I asked him. Chu Nanyu grinned, revealing a set of pearly white teeth. "Then I'll wait for you. I'll study for the retake with you. Xiao Yang, we have to get into Tsinghua together." I didn't really have a plan for which university to attend, but from that day on, Tsinghua became my goal. I always thought that in the summer when we turned 18, Chu Nanyu and I would walk through the gates of Tsinghua together. That was until he met Xia Jiqing. Xia Jiqing transferred in during our second year of high school. On her first day, nearly half the boys in the school crowded around the back door of her classroom just to catch a glimpse of her. By the end of that day, everyone knew our school had a new reigning beauty, as she stood at the podium introducing herself. Her shimmering eyeshadow caught the light, and her curvaceous figure drew whistles from the boys in the audience. I turned my head and saw that even Chu Nanyu, who had never shown interest in anything but studying, had looked up. In that drab, grey period of everyone's adolescence, Xia Jiqing was a splash of vibrant color. She was different from all the other girls. She wore glossy lip gloss, sported tight tank tops under her oversized school uniform, and would fearlessly hop onto a guy's motorcycle after school, letting out wild, carefree screams. She was quite interested in Chu Nanyu, so during PE class, she volunteered to be his partner for badminton. She held onto his arm, beaming with a smile. "Chu, I heard you're really good at badminton. I'm terrible at it. Could you teach me?" Up until that point, Chu Nanyu had always been in a group with me. I thought he would turn her down, but after a moment's hesitation, he said to me, "Xiao Yang, maybe you should find someone else to partner with." Everyone else in the class had already formed their teams. For that entire class, I was the only one left standing on the sidelines, completely at a loss. I saw Xia Jiqing deliberately bend over to pick up the ball in front of Chu Nanyu. The well-developed curves of the young woman were subtly revealed by the tight tank top beneath her unzipped jacket. Chu Nanyu's face slowly flushed red. It was true that Xia Jiqing couldn't play, but Chu Nanyu patiently taught her, bit by bit. He didn't get annoyed at her for being too clumsy to hit the ball like he used to with me. Instead, his eyes gradually filled with a warm smile as he looked at her. From start to finish, he never once glanced at me, standing alone to the side. Just a few days later, Xia Jiqing confessed her feelings to Chu Nanyu. Many girls had confessed to Chu Nanyu before, but he had turned them down every single time. This time, however, he agreed without a moment's hesitation. From that day on, Chu Nanyu was a changed man. He stopped doing homework with me and going to the library together. His whole heart was tied to Xia Jiqing. He skipped class with her to go on dates and race cars. He got into fights with local troublemakers to show off for her. I picked up smoking and drinking just to make her happy. He said he liked a dazzling Xia Jiqing like this. He said she was nothing like me. She was the ray of light that brightened his dull life. He told me not to contact him anymore because it would upset Xia Jiqing. From that day on, we went our separate ways for good. 5. Chu Nanyu got an earful, but he insisted he'd done nothing wrong and refused to listen to his mother about breaking up with Xia Jiqing. Mrs. Chu was so upset she left the school in tears. It was raining when school let out. As I was getting my umbrella at the school gate, I saw Chu Nanyu and Xia Jiqing taking shelter from the rain nearby. They were holding each other, and Chu Nanyu had taken off his jacket to drape it over Xia Jiqing's head. He used to shield me from the rain like that too, only now it's Xia Jiqing in my place. Xia Jiqing was wearing a new white linen maxi dress, which had become slightly sheer where the rain had soaked through. After a moment's hesitation, I pulled out the spare umbrella from my bag and offered it to her. "Need an umbrella?" Xia Jiqing snorted with contempt and slapped the umbrella out of my hand, sending it clattering to the ground. Qiao Yang, are you out of your mind? Didn't Nan Yu tell you to leave him alone? You're always haunting us, desperately seeking attention. How pathetic can you be? I pulled back my stinging hand. Shocked that my simple act of kindness could be twisted like that, my eyes instinctively darted towards Chu Nanyu. Chu Nanyu, however, just kicked the umbrella away in irritation. Can you just stop hovering around me? This is so annoying. Xia Jiqing burst out laughing, linked arms with him, and they both dashed into the rain together, the two of them, a handsome boy and a beautiful girl, sprinting through the rain in their school uniforms, looked just like a scene straight out of a movie. Even though the sight was painfully glaring to me, I had to admit they made a perfect couple. After a long moment, I bent down, picked up the umbrella, and slowly walked into the rain. 6. When I got home, Auntie Chu was sitting on our sofa, her eyes were red and swollen, and my mother was sighing beside her. Yang Yang, could you help me talk some sense into Nanyu? He always listened to you before. She looked up, her eyes full of hope. I hesitated for a moment and said with a wry smile, Auntie, I'm afraid he won't listen to me now either. It's been a long time since we've spent any time together. Auntie Chu took my hand, her voice choked with emotion. Yang Yang, please help me, won't you? I'm truly at my wit's end. Nanyu is completely obsessed with that woman. He won't listen to a word I say. I'm begging you. Please. Seeing the near desperation in her eyes, the words of refusal lingered on the tip of my tongue, but in the end, I couldn't bring myself to say them. All right. I said with a sigh, I'll give it a try. The next evening after school, I found Chu Nanyu. Can I talk to you? I said quietly. Chu Nanyu looked a bit impatient, but still followed me to the side. What's up? I hesitated for a moment before saying, Aunt Chu asked me to talk some sense into you. Chu Nanyu, I know you probably won't take what I say to heart, but I still want to give you some advice. It's not that anyone is trying to stop you from dating. It's just that the college entrance exam is right around the corner. Could you maybe just hold off a little? Wait until after the exams are over. Okay. Chu Nanyu let out a scornful laugh. Qiao Yang, when did you start parroting the same old lines as them? My business is none of your concern. With that, he turned to leave. Remembering the redness around Chu Mama's eyes, I couldn't help but grab the hem of his shirt, pleading almost desperately, Nan Yu. Xia Jiqing walked up from behind and threw an arm around Chu Nanyu's neck. A smirk played on her lips as she looked at me. Qiao Yang, you're not using his mother as an excuse to talk to him, just to break us up on purpose, are you? Let me guess. She leaned in closer, a flicker of malice in her eyes. You have feelings for Nanyu, don't you? I was flustered and at a loss, unable to utter a single word. Xia Jiqing said to Chu Nanyu with a grin, see, I guessed it. I told you your childhood sweetheart has a crush on you. Nanyu, what do you think? If you like her too, I can step aside and let you two be together. Chu Nanyu just gave me a cold, sweeping glance, his eyes filled with disdain and disgust. Don't make me sick, he said. I stood rooted to the spot, a chill running down my spine. My heart ached with a sharp, unspeakable pain, yet I still wanted to reach out and pull him back. I said hoarsely, Xia Jiqing, if you truly care for him, you shouldn't hold him back. You know exactly how important the college entrance exam is for someone's life. Xia Jiqing narrowed her eyes and pulled Chu Nanyu closer. Do you think I'm holding you back? Maybe we should just break up, then you can go to university with her. How about that? Chu Nanyu reached out and shoved me hard. His eyes were filled with impatience and disgust. Enough, Qiao Yang, just because I kept quiet, you really think you're something special. Don't pay her any mind, she's just crazy, he said to Xia Jiqing. Xia Jiqing shot me a glance, her eyes brimming with contempt. Then, right in front of me, she lifted her head and shared a deep kiss with Chu Nanyu. The color drained from my face. Chu Nanyu, you'll live to regret this. Chu Nanyu let out a contemptuous snort. Regret? I will never, ever regret it. 7. That evening, I went home and shut myself in my room. I looked up and saw all the things crowded on the wall shelf. Among them was a model kit, a gift from Chu Nanyu for my birthday last year. It was a model I'd always wanted, but it was too expensive for me to ever justify buying. He had spent all his New Year's money and worked tirelessly for 3 whole months. When he finally presented it to me, his eyes were sparkling like stars. Do you like it? The card next to it read, "Wishing Qiao Yang eternal happiness and joy." As I read these lines, my eyes suddenly began to sting. I don't understand how a person can change so drastically, so suddenly. He truly is deeply infatuated with Xie Jiqing, so much so that everyone else in his eyes is reduced to trash. I didn't expect Chu Nanyu to reach out to me the very next day. "Qiao Yang, I've been thinking, I really went too far yesterday. Let's talk again. I'd like to apologize to you in person." The physics competition was the next day. I had prepared for it for a long time. A good result might even secure me a direct admission spot. I had prepared for this with Chu Nanyu. In fact, he was the one who got me started, but now, I was on my own. I didn't want to waste any time and wrestled with the decision, but in the end, I still went to meet them. I want to give Chu Nanyu a chance, and give our friendship a chance as well. He asked me to meet him at the school's sports equipment warehouse. In the evening gloom, the air inside was thick with the smell of mildew and dust, so dark you could barely make out a figure. A sudden sense of unease washed over me. I started backing away, calling out, "Chu Nanyu, are you there?" Just as I was about to leave the warehouse, the main door suddenly slammed shut from the outside. My pupils contracted sharply, and I rushed over, pounding on the door with all my might. "Open the door, there's still someone in here, open up." But there wasn't a single sound from outside. In that instant, it felt like a bucket of ice water had been dumped over me from head to toe, and I couldn't stop my whole body from trembling. It suddenly hit me, Chu Nanyu wasn't about to apologize to me. He thought I was meddling and wanted to teach me a lesson. But, I slid down with my back against the warehouse door, overwhelmed by a wave of utter despair. But I have the physics competition tomorrow. If I miss this competition, I'll lose my guaranteed university admission spot for good. By the time someone comes to open the warehouse tomorrow, it'll be too late. I huddled alone in the warehouse, trembling as the night grew deeper and the world around me faded into total darkness. Only a faint sliver of light filtered in from a high window. I stared at that window, my jaw clenched tight. Moments later, I began to climb, inching my way up the makeshift stack of chairs and tables until I could finally grasp the windowsill and haul myself up. The warehouse windows were incredibly high. Looking down from them felt like peering from the second or third floor. My fear of heights kicked in, and a wave of dizziness washed over me. I suddenly felt like I might cry. I don't understand why Chu Nanyu would treat me this way. If he were just a stranger, it wouldn't hurt this much. Yet we were once so close. He was so good to me. The boy who used to be heartbroken at the sight of my tears is now being crueler to me than anyone. My palms grew clammy as I mustered my courage. I have to give it my all. I can't miss this competition. After a long moment, I closed my eyes and jumped. 8. In the end, I missed the competition the next day. My luck was terrible. I broke my leg jumping down, and it was pouring rain that day. The pain was so intense I passed out on the spot. It wasn't until the next day that a teacher who arrived early saw me. He was shocked and immediately called 120 to get me to the hospital. The teacher came to visit me in the hospital and was deeply regretful, saying, "With your track record, you would have been a shoo-in for first prize if nothing had gone wrong. The questions weren't even that difficult this time. What a shame. But don't be too upset. If this doesn't work out, we can always go the college entrance exam route." Getting into Tsinghua isn't completely off the table. I stared blankly at the ceiling, unable to utter a single word. My parents were so heartbroken they couldn't stop their tears from falling. It was only later that I found out I had offended Xie Jiqing that day when I went to persuade Chu Nanyu. She resented me for meddling, for saying she was holding Chu Nanyu back, and she pressured him to get back at me for her, from start to finish. Chu Nanyu knew that Xie Jiqing intended to lock me in the warehouse. He also knew that the very next day was the physics competition I had been preparing for so long. Chu's parents practically dragged him to my bedside to apologize. Mrs. Chu, normally so elegant and dignified, looked utterly exhausted, as if she had aged a decade in an instant. "This is all my fault, Yang Yang." She covered her face, tears streaming through her fingers. "I've given birth to a child who's nothing but a curse." Chu Nanyu was thrown into a panic at the sight of my leg suspended in traction. He stammered out, "Qiao Yang, I never meant for things to turn out like this. Jiqing said she just wanted to teach you a lesson. She was going to let you out first thing the next morning, so you wouldn't miss your exam." My mother finally couldn't take it anymore. "Nanyu, I may not have said it before, but I've always thought of you as my own son and genuinely cared for you. You believe everything that woman says. If she really intended to let Yang Yang out first thing in the morning, how come Yang Yang wasn't found until the teachers arrived for work and had to be rushed to the hospital? You and Yang Yang used to be so close. It's one thing to distance yourself from her for that woman's sake. But how could you do something so terrible to her? You know perfectly well how much this competition means to Yang Yang. Chunanyu was left speechless. After a long pause, he lowered his head and said hoarsely, "I'm sorry. Xiao Yang, I closed my eyes, and a tear fell onto the pillow. A sudden wave of exhaustion washed over me. I couldn't bear to see Chunanyu again, nor could I stand to hear his voice. I was utterly weary. I said, Chunanyu, just go, let's just pretend we never met." 9. I never contacted Chunanyu again. I was completely done with him, even when we ran into each other at school and he tried to say something. I pretended not to see him and walked straight past. I started studying even harder, even though Xie Jiqing mocked me countless times for being a bookworm who was just wasting my youth. I didn't care. I woke up earlier and went to bed later, using every spare moment to study while they were all recklessly squandering their youth on romance. In the final joint examination, I scored 709 and ranked first in the entire city. Chunanyu's name, which used to be right alongside mine on the honor roll, had completely vanished. The competition in our final year of high school was already cutthroat. Everyone was studying like their lives depended on it. You either moved forward or fell behind. Just as I was burying myself in my books, a piece of gossip suddenly started making the rounds at school. Xie Jiqing was pregnant. She and Chunanyu had skipped class to go see a movie, one of those angsty teen dramas. There was a scene about losing their innocence and being young and impulsive. They couldn't resist. They ended up at a cheap motel. Chunanyu didn't dare tell his parents, so he secretly took Xie Jiqing to get an abortion, but he didn't have enough money, and he was too scared to ask his family for it. After racking his brains, he finally thought of me. I was shocked when Chunanyu asked to borrow 2,000 yuan from me to pay for Xie Jiqing's abortion. The Chu family was quite well off. His father was a well-known local entrepreneur, and Chunanyu's old monthly allowance used to be well into 5 figures. But after he started dating Xie Jiqing, his family cut him off financially. I almost let out a cold, scornful laugh. Chunanyu, you and Xie Jiqing are the reason I couldn't go to the physics competition. And now you have the nerve to ask me for money. What were you thinking? Chunanyu's brow furrowed deeply. Xiao Yang, I'm truly at my wit's end. I really don't know who else to turn to but you. Impossible. I turned and walked away, but he called out to stop me. Chunanyu said through gritted teeth, Xiao Yang, then give me back the model I gave you. I gave that to you, and now I'm asking for it back. Is that okay? I turned around and stared fixedly at the young man before me. The same features, the same expression. It was as if he had become a complete stranger to me. I still remember when Chunanyu gave me the model, how excitedly he told me how long he had worked on it, insisting I must treasure it. My heart ached for the time he had spent, a mix of gentle reproach and quiet joy. The young man stood by the gardenia flowers, cradling the enormous model as the evening breeze carried their gentle fragrance. His eyes crinkled into crescents as he smiled. I'm not tired, as long as you like it. And now, he wants the model back to sell it for money to pay for his girlfriend's abortion. 10. I returned the model to Chunanyu, along with everything he had ever given me. Every card, every letter he wrote. I used to treasure these things, storing them carefully in a box. Terrified of any damage, I've packed everything from the East Capital and returned it all to him. These are all your things. From now on, we're even. Don't come looking for me anymore, I said calmly. Chunanyu stared blankly at the items in his hands, a flicker of confusion passing through his eyes. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but I didn't give him the chance. Turning and walking away, just a few days later, I heard that Chunanyu had taken Xie Jiqing to get an abortion. They didn't go to a proper hospital, they couldn't afford it, and ended up at a small clinic they found from a flyer on the street. I heard Xie Jiqing had complications during her surgery. She suffered a massive hemorrhage on the operating table and nearly died. Even so, she didn't regret it in the slightest. Instead, she posted a moment on social media. For you, I'd do anything. The picture shows Chunanyu holding her hand. Teenagers are naturally naive about such private matters, and after Xie Jiqing returned, she became the subject of almost everyone's gossip and pointing fingers. So that's the school beauty, a male classmate snickered behind Xie Jiqing's back. She's been passed around so much, she's probably worn out. If I'd known she was such a slut back then, I would have had a go too. Forget it now, I think she's dirty. She and Chu Nanyu were once the center of attention and the talk of the school, but after this incident, no one wanted to be associated with them anymore, afraid of being tarred with the same brush. The teachers had completely given up on Chu Nanyu. His seat in the front rows was given to someone else, and he was relegated to the back of the classroom with the slackers who never studied. His favorite physics teacher stopped calling on him and gave up on him entirely, even when he slept in class. The teacher pretended not to see. The classmates and friends who once surrounded him gradually drifted away. My life became a monotonous routine, shuttling back and forth between school and home. Chu Nanyu completely abandoned his studies. He and Xie Jiqing spent their days going out to internet cafes, drinking, street racing, and getting intimate, a total surrender to indulgence. Their youth was like a scene from a movie, wild and unrestrained. Meanwhile, I buried myself in my studies every day, content to be part of the background. In the end, Chu Nanyu and I became like two parallel lines that would never meet. On the day of the college entrance exam, I walked into the examination hall carrying the weight of my efforts, which I had no regrets about, and the expectations of everyone. I thought I would be nervous, but surprisingly, I wasn't. Every question appeared in my mind like an old friend, intimately familiar. I never wasted a single minute of my youth. I did my best. 11. After the college entrance exams, I went home and saw my mom on the phone in the living room, her face full of worry. After hanging up, she sighed and said, "The day before the college entrance exam, Nanyu had a fight with his girlfriend and ended up getting drenched in the rain all day. He came down with a fever during the exam and couldn't finish several major questions towards the end. His chances don't look good this time." I was taken aback, suddenly remembering that I'd heard something about Chu Nanyu arguing with her a few days ago, over that business with Xie Jiqing's ex-boyfriend. It was pouring rain that day. Xie Jiqing ran out into the downpour crying, and Chu Nanyu rushed after her to stop her. Two people embraced and kissed in the pouring rain, soaked to the bone, with many classmates watching nearby. I still remember one classmate saying with envy, "They're so romantic, it's like something out of a TV drama." Nanyu's mother was so upset she cried, saying she was completely done with him and would never bother with him again. My mother frowned. "He used to be such a good kid," she said. "How did he end up like this?" I didn't say anything. To be honest, I didn't know either. Perhaps Chu Nanyu's life had been too perfect for the first decade or so, or maybe he had grown tired of that rigid, by-the-book existence, or perhaps he was truly, deeply in love with Xie Jiqing. In any case, none of it had anything to do with me anymore. Both Chu Nanyu and Xie Jiqing showed up at the party after the college entrance exams. Freed from the grind of college entrance exam prep, I started learning how to do my makeup and wore my new dress. Chu Nanyu's gaze lingered on me, a mix of surprise and something more complicated. I don't drink, so I stuck to orange juice. Xie Jiqing, however, was clinking glasses and toasting with the guys around her, a dozen or so empty beer bottles piled up in front of her, and even Chu Nanyu sitting beside her couldn't get her to stop. "So, Xiao Yang, where are you applying? With your grades, getting into Tsinghua or Peking University should be a breeze, right?" a classmate asked with a laugh. "Exactly. Xiao Yang has always been top of the class. If she can't get into Tsinghua, who can?" Before I could say anything, Xie Jiqing let out a sudden, derisive snort. She walked up to me and, with a playful grin, handed me a glass of wine. "Xiao Yang, let's have a drink. Consider it my way of thanking you for taking such good care of my boyfriend for the past 18 years. I frowned. "No, thank you, I don't drink," but Xie Jiqing, for some drunken reason, was dead set on forcing me. Chu Nanyu walked over and took the glass from her. "She really doesn't drink." Xie Jiqing shook him off with annoyance and leaned in close to me, saying, "Xiao Yang, you have feelings for Chu Nanyu, don't you?" Without waiting for my reply, a scornful smile curled on her lips of its own accord. "Do you know why he chose me over you?" Chu Nanyu frowned. "You're drunk," Xie Jiqing continued. "Because you're so boring," Nanyu told me himself. "He said all you ever think about is studying. Don't you know how dull that is?" He said he's only truly happy when he's with me. The wild, exciting feeling I give him is something you could never provide. She looked down at her condescendingly. Qiao Yang, you only get one youth. If you're too afraid to live a little, it's no wonder he doesn't like you. Would you dare to get an abortion for him? She said with smug triumph. I would dare. All the other classmates turned to look at us. Chu Nanyu's face was ashen with fury. Sitting in my chair, I stared fixedly at her and said, how I live my youth is my own business. I don't need anyone else to define it for me, and I don't need anyone's approval. I laughed. What's your approval even worth? Xie Jiqing's smile slowly faded. Chu Nanyu looked at me. His eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions I couldn't decipher. A moment later, he led Xie Jiqing away. The whole farce quickly fizzled out, because a few days later, the National College Entrance Exam results were released. 12. The first score I learned about was Chu Nanyu's, because his mother came crying to my mom again. Chu Nanyu barely answered any of the science questions in the end, scoring just over 300 points. Forget his original goal of Tsinghua University, he didn't even come close to the undergraduate cutoff score and could only get into a vocational college. Xie Jiqing was the same, scoring just over 200 points. Chu's mother was sobbing uncontrollably on the phone. He used to be the top student in the whole school. We all thought this child would go far. What on earth did I do to deserve this? After sobbing for a while, Auntie Chu asked, how did your Yang Yang do on the exams? My mom had just received calls from the admissions offices of Tsinghua and Peking University. Even though the official scores weren't out yet, she had a pretty good idea of the results. She could only reply awkwardly. They're not out yet, only the top 50 students in the province have their results delayed. Chu's mother fell silent for a moment, her tone laced with a complex mix of emotions. I really envy you. If only Nanyu were half as sensible as Yang Yang. Not long after, the results came out. 719, I was the top scorer in the province. My whole family was over the moon, and so were the teachers at my school. They even hung a huge celebratory banner across the school's main entrance, celebrating our school's student, Qiao Yang, for scoring 729 on the Gaokao and being named the provincial top scorer. Overnight, I became a household name in our small town. A steady stream of well-wishers came to congratulate my family. Many parents even went through connections to ask my mom and dad for a copy of my study notes. My dad was grinning from ear to ear. For the celebration banquet, he booked the best hotel in town and invited everyone we knew. The Chu family has arrived as well. Someone at the table couldn't help but ask, I heard your Nanyu is also an excellent student, even better than Yang Yang before. How did he do on the exams this time? He spoke with a tone of exasperation. My son insisted on getting into a puppy-love relationship right before the college entrance exams. He only scored a little over 500 points in the end, so he'll just have to settle for a regular university. I truly envy you for having a child who gives you no worries, Mr. Chu was too embarrassed to speak and could only slip away with Mrs. Chu under the pretense of going to the restroom. An insider whispered, over 500 is already pretty good for them. I heard their son fooled around with a girl before the college entrance exam and got her pregnant. He only scored a little over 300 this time, just enough to buy his way into a vocational college. They hadn't met Chu Nanyu and didn't realize he was sitting right there. He hung his head, pale and silent. At all those parties in the past, the two of us were always the center of attention. At the parent-teacher conference, half the parents crowded around Chu's mother for advice, while the other half sought guidance from mine. His parents should have been here too, beaming with joy. His name should have been on that congratulatory banner too. He was the one who walked away from all of this. As I walked past Chu Nanyu, he called out to me. He forced a bitter smile. Congratulations, Qiao Yang. Wasn't Tsinghua University your dream? You've made it. I smiled and said, no, I don't want to go to Tsinghua anymore. I applied to Peking University. 13. A few days later, the school invited me back to give a speech. Standing on the high platform of the sports field, I looked down at the sea of faces below. Every gaze was fixed on me, every expression one of admiration and awe. Seated in the crowd, Chu Nanyu and Xie Jiqing both flushed with embarrassment. There was a time when their classmates would scream over their wild antics, envying what they called a storybook romance. But now, no one paid them any attention. As I gripped the microphone, the entire room fell silent in an instant. Some people used to say my youth wasn't wild enough, that it was too boring, and that I was wasting my best years by being nothing but a bookworm. My voice echoed across the entire sports field. But I never believed youth had to be wild. I believe true youth is about learning to take responsibility for your own life. The students, cheering and applauding wildly, rose to their feet. The crowd swallowed up Chu Nanyu and Xie Jiqing, and I lost sight of them. 3 months later, I left to study at Peking University. The university gathered the top students from across the country, and I was no longer the most outstanding one. I had to push myself even harder, getting involved in numerous clubs and internships on top of my studies. I won a lot of awards, various competition prizes, the National Scholarship, honors for outstanding student leadership, and more. 4 years later, I graduated and went on to pursue further studies at MIT. 2 years after that, I returned to China with my startup company, which by then was already well on track, a venture I had launched with my classmates. My company operates in the e-commerce space. Our investors were very bullish on our project, putting in 20 million in the first year alone. We also caught the e-commerce wave at its peak. The company's annual revenue hit 130 million, and I was easily pulling in over 10 million a year myself. Someone organized a high school reunion, and I decided to go. At the gathering, toasts were flowing freely, everyone was all smiles, and they kept coming over to clink glasses with me. Look at Xiao Yang now, a real young entrepreneur. Didn't you even get named one of the city's top 10 outstanding youths last year? Yeah, I have a friend working at your company. I heard he makes $500,000 a year. Xiao Yang, you've got to look out for your old classmates. Give us a chance too. Someone, I'm not sure who, brought up Chu Nanyu and said with a touch of nostalgia. You and Chu Nanyu were so close back then. We all thought you'd both end up at Tsinghua together. I still remember his target university, the one he had pinned on his wall, was Tsinghua. Yeah, but then they started dating way too young. They were absolutely wild back then, smoking, street racing, getting into fights, even had an abortion. They'd have these dramatic fights in the rain, like something straight out of a movie, the speaker said with a light, dismissive laugh. Just young and foolish, I guess. At the time, I thought it was all so romantic. Looking back now, how stupid it all was. Are Chu Nanyu and Xie Jiqing still together? Someone asked curiously. They broke up a couple of years ago. I heard neither of them could find a job after graduation, had no income. Xie Jiqing couldn't take it anymore and cheated with some rich kid. Things got serious. They were talking marriage, but then he found out about her past abortion. Her uterine lining was too thin. She can't have kids now. He was furious, called her all sorts of names for being so shameless, and dumped her on the spot. She's working as a hostess at a KTV now. We took some clients there last time and saw her. I almost didn't recognize her. She's nothing like the girl from high school. What about Chu Nanyu? Him? I heard he tried to get into a bachelor's program but didn't make it. Couldn't find a decent job either. Now he's delivering food while studying for the self-taught higher education exams. I didn't say a word, my gaze meeting Chu Nanyu's as he pushed the door open and walked in. I didn't recognize him at first glance. In my memory, his eyes were always bright and sparkling, brimming with a young man's pride, but now, he was wearing a black down jacket that looked well worn, with dark circles under his tired eyes. Not a trace of that light remained in his eyes. That once brilliant young man had long since faded into the crowd. When he saw me, his gaze flinched. As he looked down, a hint of self-consciousness colored his face, and he tugged at the sleeve of his down jacket. Standing in the middle of the private room, I was suddenly, inexplicably, reminded of 7 years ago. 17-year-old Chu Nanyu was sprawled on my bed, his smile earnest and full of anticipation. His tone was so resolute, as if he already knew victory was within his grasp. He said, "Xiao Yang, let's get into Tsinghua University together." My heart pounded like a drum. What if I don't get in? He flashed a bright, white smile. Then I'll wait for you. I'll stay and repeat the year with you. Xiao Yang, we have to get into Tsinghua University together. Back then, none of us ever imagined that in the end, neither of us would make it to Tsinghua. That dazzling dream of our youth burst like a bubble in the wind. As the gathering was winding down, Chu Nanyu called out to me. 7 years had left their mark on his face. He hesitated for a long moment before speaking in a low voice. "Xiao Yang, I've owed you an apology for a long time. You tried to give me good advice back then. but I was too foolish to appreciate it. I even ended up costing you your chance to compete in the physics competition. I've always wanted to give you a proper, sincere apology." I gave a casual, dismissive laugh. "It's all in the past, it didn't really set me back or anything." He gave a wry smile. "Yeah, you did so well on the Gaokao. I really thought you'd end up at Tsinghua. Now that I've let go of everything, I can finally talk about how I felt back then without any weight. Back then, the only reason I wanted to go to Tsinghua was because you said you were going. Without you going too, I didn't have a compelling reason to choose Tsinghua anymore. Peking University's offer was actually quite good." Chunanyu said nothing. It seemed to be snowing outside. The multicolored lights illuminated each snowflake, and as they drifted down in a flurry, it was as beautiful as a dream. "Can we still be friends?" he asked after standing there for a long while. "There's no need," I said, waving a hand dismissively. "I'll be going now, goodbye." Just as I was about to get in the car, a loud shout came from behind me. "Qiao Yang, you said I'd regret it." "I told you I'd never regret it." Chunanyu's voice was trembling uncontrollably. "But I do regret it. I've regretted it for a long time. What am I supposed to do?" I didn't turn around, and said in a low voice, "That's your problem. You made your choice. Now you have to live with the consequences." 14. I never expected to see news about Xia Jiqing online. It was a very inconspicuous news item. Something I just stumbled upon. The woman in the image was pale and gaunt, with prominent cheekbones and sunken eyes. If not for the name Xia Moqing written beside her, I would never have recognized the shadow of the once radiant, smiling campus belle in this haggard woman's face. This was an anti-gambling educational film. From what I gathered, it was about Xia Jiqing who latched onto a wealthy man at a KTV, only to find out he was just a gambler who dragged her into addiction. The two of them took out massive loans from loan sharks. In the end, Xia Jiqing couldn't cover the debt and was forced into prostitution. Even after contracting a sexually transmitted disease, she couldn't stop working. At her busiest, she serviced 13 clients in a single day, and was eventually rescued in a Vice Squad raid. The first comment below says, "I know her. She was the prettiest girl in our high school back then. She was so stunning that the top student in our grade gave up everything just to date her. She even had an abortion for him. It's such a shame. She was quite the celebrity at school because of her looks." I lowered my gaze, suddenly remembering the question Xia Jiqing had once asked me. She taunted me with smug satisfaction back then. "Qiao Yang, you only get one youth. If you don't even have the courage to be reckless, it's no wonder he doesn't like you." I don't know if she ever regretted the consequences of that so-called recklessness. All I know is, I have no regrets about how I spent my youth. If I had to do it all over again, I'd make the same choice. Now, I have countless opportunities to shape my life and can truly live it to the fullest. I wonder if, when they lie awake at night remembering their so-called madness, they can still bring themselves to say, "I have no regrets." Story 2, 3 days before the wedding. Someone had poisoned me fatally. In an instant, I lost my sight. My fiancé rushed me to the hospital in a hurry. After 2 days and 2 nights of emergency treatment, I was lucky enough to survive. As soon as I regained consciousness, I heard a familiar voice. "Do as I say, remove her corneas and ovaries. I will take full responsibility for the rest of her life." "But Alan, the toxins have already been cleared. You just want to have a wedding with Rose. Why do you really have to ruin her?" Alan said coldly. "I promised Rose that I would bring our son, Dan, home to recognize his ancestors. Only when she is blind and loses her fertility can she accept Dan, and Rose can truly be at ease." A sharp pain shot through my chest, and tears welled up from the corners of my eyes. It turned out that the love I thought I had was just a dream. Since that's the case, I don't want this empty joy anymore. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Don't say any more, just do as I tell you. The doctor felt pity but still tried to persuade him. "Alan, the poison that Miss Lin was poisoned with has caused great damage to her body. If we remove her corneas and ovaries in this situation, I'm afraid she will be half dead. What's more, the truth can't be hidden forever. Aren't you afraid that Miss Lin will hate you when she finds out the truth?" Alan gently stroked the gauze on my face, his eyes full of tenderness. "No. It's her own fault for being too stubborn. She said that if she found out I was cheating, she would disappear forever. I just made a mistake that every man would make. I'm sorry for Rose and her son, but I don't want to lose her either. Only by pulling out all her claws will she not be able to hurt others. After my wedding with Rose is over, I will live a good life with Dan and her." After performing his show of affection, he looked up at the doctor, his eyes exuding an irresistible sense of oppression. "I own this hospital. If you still want to keep your job, do as I say." The doctor wiped the cold sweat off his forehead vigorously. "Yes, I just feel sorry for Miss Lynn. You two grew up together, and it's really a pity that she will become a disabled person. I'm also afraid that you will regret it in the future. Alan, go and prepare for the operation. Use more anesthesia. Don't let her feel the pain. I will feel sorry for her." After saying that, he turned around and sent a voice message to his assistant. "Have all the traces been cleared? Give the nanny who poisoned her 5 million yuan and send her family abroad. Don't let Lynn know." Tears welled up instantly, and my body couldn't help shaking. Alan rushed over and hugged me, questioning the doctor. "You useless people. Don't you see how much pain Lynn is in? Increase the dosage quickly." After that, the cold anesthesia was injected into my body again, before falling into a complete coma. I felt Alan kiss my forehead. He also whispered in my ear, "Don't be afraid, Lynn. Everything will be okay when you wake up." I felt a chill. The wedding I had been looking forward to since I was young had actually become my nightmare, and the person who pushed me into the abyss with his own hands was the person I loved the most, my bed partner. When I woke up again, I had become blind. The smell of the cologne that Alan often used was around me, pretending not to know. I waved my hands in front of my eyes randomly. He grabbed my hand and asked with concern, "Lynn, you're awake. How do you feel?" The doctor said, "The poison was too deep and it affected the optic nerve. But don't be afraid, even if you can't see, I will always be with you." Listening to his lies, I broke down and cried. I punched and kicked him while holding him, but he didn't say a word. After venting, I said calmly, "You've taken care of me all night. Go back and rest. I want to be alone." Alan felt even more terrible when he saw me like this. He held my hand tightly, and his stubble rubbed against my hand. "What are you talking about? You're so weak. How can I leave you alone? I've already arranged things in the company. I'll stay with you these days." Just then, I heard a rush of footsteps. "Alan, there's an urgent matter in the company that requires you to go back and deal with it." Alan's impatient voice sounded. "What's so urgent that it has to be said now?" "Alan, it's, sure. Don't disturb Lynn, let's talk outside." He quickly let go of my hand and followed his assistant outside to discuss in a low voice. After a while, he came back and explained, "I'm sorry, this matter is really urgent. I have to go. I'll come and see you in the afternoon." Before I could reply, he gave me a heavy kiss on the forehead and left quickly. The nurse who came to change the dressing couldn't help scolding when she saw the empty ward. "Where's your family member? You just had an operation and this is the time when you need someone to take care of you the most. How can he leave? Look at you. The infusion has finished and there's no one to call for a dressing change. The blood has even flowed back into the needle." Among the 5 patients who came out of the operating room today, your family member is the most unreliable. At this time, another nurse said, "Sister, she's Alan's fiancée." Her voice was very low. "A woman came to look for Alan just now. I saw Alan hug her and go to the chairman's office on the 20th floor. What a scumbag." "Sure." I didn't answer. I just gave a bitter smile. When Alan came again in the afternoon, I smelled a strong fragrance of jasmine even before he walked in. I don't like jasmine. I only love neroli, and Alan always wears cologne. So he had gone to see the jasmine he was keeping outside. My heart sank again, and a pang of bitterness welled up. I didn't ask Alan about it. I just gently stroked my hand that was bruised because the dressing wasn't changed in time and the blood had flowed back. But he didn't notice my abnormality at all. After a while, I heard Alan open a box, pour some soup, stir it with a spoon, blow on it, and then feed it to me. "Be good, Lynn. Drink more soup. The doctor said you can't eat after the operation, but you can drink soup to replenish your energy. Drink some, get better soon." I obediently took a sip of the soup. It seemed to be pork rib soup. My favorite is pork rib soup with lotus root. Over the years, Alan has known all my preferences like the back of his hand, and no one can fault him for that. Even my girlfriends envied me for finding such an infatuated man. I drank the hot soup mouthful by mouthful, recalling every bit of our time together. Alan, when did everything change? Just then, I felt my body getting hot and itchy. And I couldn't help scratching, unexpectedly. The more I scratched, the itchier it became. My hands were sticky. I should have been bleeding. Alan was shocked and quickly pressed the bell to call for the doctor and nurse. What's going on? Lynn has a lot of red spots on her body. Did you use some medicine that caused her to be allergic? Then I heard a group of people's footsteps. It seemed that there were a lot of people crowded around my bed, chattering non-stop. Alan. All the drugs were tested for skin sensitivity before being injected. It's impossible to cause an allergy. Do you think there's some misunderstanding? Alan's voice rose an octave. A misunderstanding? Look at how serious the red rashes on Lynn's body are. Just then, a female voice sounded. It was the nurse just now. Alan, what kind of soup did you just feed Miss Lynn? Pork rib soup with Chinese yam and radish. Why, is there a problem? Pork rib soup with Chinese yam and radish. It's not the pork rib soup with lotus root that I like, but I'm allergic to Chinese yam, and Alan knows that. When I was 16 years old, I accidentally ate Chinese yam and had an allergic reaction. It was Alan who took me to the hospital. Alan still wanted to make trouble with the nurse. This soup was made by my family. There can't be a problem, right? I said coldly. I'm allergic to Chinese yam. Alan then realized what was going on. He grabbed my hand and slapped himself hard. It's my fault. I actually forgot. I'm sorry, Lynn. Yes, you forgot. You've long forgotten. Our 12-year relationship has long since deteriorated. Just like this bowl of soup. Things have changed and people are no longer the same. Alan went back to make soup for me again to atone for his fault. He said he would make pork rib soup with lotus root for me this time with his own hands. After he left, I asked the nurse to help me find my girlfriend's phone number and called her. My girlfriend was shocked. After all, Alan and I grew up together. We were so close that we were like one person. She helped me come up with a plan and stood by me unconditionally. Don't worry, I'll make arrangements for you. Since he betrayed you, he must pay the price. After planning everything, I completely lost my strength and wanted to fall asleep. Just then, the sound of rapid high-heeled shoes sounded. Lynn, I'm here today to give you the final notice. You don't have to attend the wedding. The Allen family will never accept a disabled daughter-in-law. I advise you to withdraw voluntarily. Rose is the one who— Mom, stop talking. It was Alan who chased after her. Mom, I told you not to disturb Lynn. What are you doing here? A strange female voice sounded. Coquettishly, Senior, don't blame Auntie. She cares about you. Why are you here too? Alan's voice suddenly rose and then lowered. I said you're not allowed to appear in front of Lynn. Don't you remember? Lynn, I'll send them out first. Don't move, just wait for me here. I'll be back soon. As a result, he never came back after leaving. Just then, the phone rang. The nurse thoughtfully set my phone to the blind mode, and it automatically answered when I put it to my ear. Soon I heard the ambiguous conversation between a man and a woman coming from the phone. Alan, who do you love more, me or your Lynn? Of course it's you, you little vixen. I'd give my life to you. By the way, I made my favorite pork rib soup with Chinese yam for sister. Does she like it? She likes it. Concentrate. Don't mention her at this time. These words were like knives, cutting at my heart one by one. It turned out that the bowl of soup was brought to me by him when he went to meet his lover. Because she liked Chinese yam, he forgot that I was allergic to it. Half an hour later, the phone rang again. You heard it just now. Alan loves me the most, and that soup with Chinese yam. He actually didn't know that you're allergic to Chinese yam. Your rival in love. Remember that you don't eat Chinese yam, but your fiancé forgot. Or did he deliberately feed it to you to please me? If I were you, I would withdraw voluntarily instead of shamelessly occupying the position of Mrs. Meng. After saying that, the phone hung up. I waited for a long time, but Alan didn't come back. The next day, in my sleep, I felt someone gently wipe my face with hot water. It was Alan. His voice was choked up as if he had been crying. The doctor just told me that because of food poisoning, in addition to losing your sight, you have also lost your fertility forever. It's all my fault. I didn't take good care of you and let you eat something you shouldn't have. Hit me, Lynn. After that, he stroked my belly and cried even harder by the bedside. I felt even more disgusted listening to his crying. Isn't this exactly what you wanted, Alan? You were sleeping soundly in someone else's bed yesterday. What are you crying for in front of me now, Lynn? Don't worry, No matter what you become, I will still love you. I know you like children. Let's adopt a child together in the future. Okay, you can rest assured that no one can replace you in my heart. I've already prepared to transfer all my property under my name to you. Even if we adopt a child in the future, you will still be the most important to me, he babbled on. And I listened impatiently. I didn't want to watch him act anymore, so I simply nodded. Okay, let's do everything as you said. Hearing that I agreed to his proposal so quickly, he kissed me on the forehead. Lynn, I knew you would agree. Then, Lynn, I'll go and make arrangements now. Wait for me, okay? The adoption procedures are a bit complicated. I might not be back until 2 days later. After saying that, he was about to go out. At this time, I gently stopped him, if I remember correctly. Today is our wedding. Don't you have anything to say to me? This was the last chance I gave Alan. I was looking forward to him confessing to me. I heard the footsteps stop. Alan said with difficulty, "Yes, it's our wedding, but you're in no condition to have a wedding, so I informed the guests to cancel it." "Oh. Really? Of course, when you get better, I'll hold a grand wedding for you, but now there's an urgent matter in the company, so I have to go." He gave my palm a heavy kiss and left in a hurry, but just now, I clearly touched a cluster of jasmine flowers on his chest. Only the bridegroom will pin a flower on the chest of his suit. The wedding wasn't cancelled, it just had a different bride. My girlfriend learned about my situation and rushed back from the United States overnight to pick me up. Before getting on the plane, I asked someone to send a congratulatory gift to Alan, and then I left without looking back. At this time, Alan was holding a cluster of jasmine flowers, smiling and looking forward to his bride. When he opened the gift box I left, the dinner party had already started. His hands were shaking. Inside the gift box was a handmade silver ring engraved with the initials of our names. It was the confession gift he gave me when we graduated from high school. It was the first gift he gave me after we confirmed our relationship and had a special meaning. He once smiled and said, "Lynn, if you never want to see me again in the future, just return this silver ring to me. I hope that day will never come." At this moment, he shook off Rose's hand and frantically searched for me in the banquet hall. The guests at the scene all looked at him and couldn't help whispering, "It seems he's looking for Miss Lynn from the Jiang family. It's a pity that she's a disabled person who can't have children. This rose is more suitable for him. I heard that this rose is not simple. She gave birth to the eldest grandson early and rose to power with her son. Alan's parents are very satisfied with her. I heard that he and Miss Lynn grew up together and were engaged a long time ago. So what? A man can change his heart overnight." Alan seemed not to hear those whispers and checked table by table. Rose, wearing a long trailing wedding dress, chased after him desperately. She accidentally fell to the ground. She stood up coquettishly and took Alan's arm pitifully. "Alan, it hurts so much. Today is our wedding. Do you really have the heart to leave me? Can't we talk about it tomorrow?" Unexpectedly, Alan threw her aside. "Rose, what did you say to Lynn? Tell me now." Alan pushed Rose forcefully, and she fell to the ground. The champagne tower next to her also fell, and she was drenched like a drowned rat. Rose tried to hold Alan back with tears in her eyes. "Alan, this is the wedding we've been looking forward to for 5 years. Are you really going to leave? Don't you remember, 5 years ago, you said you would compensate me with a grand wedding? How can you go back on your word?" Lynn must have known that we're getting married and deliberately tried to get your attention to disrupt our wedding. "Alan, that woman has bad intentions. Don't be fooled by her." Just then, Alan slapped Rose in the face. "Don't you dare slander Lynn. She's not the kind of person you said she is." At this moment, a little boy rushed forward. "Dad, why did you hit Mom? Is it because of that bad aunt?" Alan flew into a rage when he heard this. "Bad aunt? Who taught you to say that? Is it Rose? Since the day you and Mom appeared in the hospital, I knew you had ulterior motives, but I didn't expect you to actually teach my son bad things in private. From now on, Dan will be brought up in the Allen family. You have no more connection with our Allen family. My wife has always been Lynn and only Lynn. You're just a plaything." After saying that, ignoring his parents' dissuasion, Alan fled the wedding in full view of everyone. He drove at full speed to the hospital and called his assistant to ask, "Hurry up and check if Lynn is still in the hospital." "Go now." "Yes, also, check the surveillance footage of the wedding banquet. We must find Lynn." Soon the phone rang. "Alan, it's not good. Miss Lynn is gone." "What?" Alan was so shocked by the news that he didn't notice the traffic light. With a loud bang, his car collided with a large truck. When he woke up again, it was already 3 days later. His spine was injured, and he lost all feeling in his lower body. But the first thing he said when he woke up was, "Discharge me from the hospital. I want to be discharged. I want to find Lynn. Check for me the nearest flight to the United States. Lynn must be angry with me and has gone back to the United States. I want to go and apologize." When the plane ticket was booked, he backed out at the last minute. He burst into tears like a child. "Doctor, can I still stand up? I can't go to see her like this. I must be able to stand up. Doctor, do you think I really did something wrong? I just made a mistake that every man would make, who knew there would be a child left behind. The child is innocent. I couldn't just ignore him. Gradually, I fell into her trap and kept her as my mistress outside. I somehow promised to give her and her son a proper status." The doctor hesitated. "Well, I've always advised you to cherish the relationship you have with Miss Lynn, who grew up with you. What kind of innocent girl do you think Rose is? She's a gold digger who hangs out in nightclubs. You didn't listen. You even followed her advice and poisoned Miss Lynn. Look at what you've done now. There's no turning back." Alan beat his disabled legs feebly. "Doctor, will there ever be a day when I can stand up again? I still want to go to the United States to find Lynn and beg for her forgiveness. How can I be worthy of her with my disabled legs? I poisoned her just because I didn't want to lose her. Only when she was completely blind could I hide the wrong things I did. But why on earth did she find out? She couldn't see. After all, the doctor didn't say anything. But the nurse sister who once helped me scolded him severely behind his back. This scumbag pretends to be affectionate only after losing her. What a piece of trash. You were never worthy of her in the first place." Later, after Alan was discharged from the hospital, he was in low spirits, seeing that their son had no hope of revitalizing the family business. Alan's father and mother made the decision on their own to move Rose and her son into the Meng family mansion. Alan threw a huge tantrum while sitting in his wheelchair and smashed things all over the house. "Get out. Get out of here. I told you not to step into the Meng family's house. If it weren't for you, I should be on a honeymoon trip with Lynn now, and my legs wouldn't be disabled. It's all your fault." Alan's father protected Dan. "What are you fooling around for? The doctor said you're paralyzed from the waist down and have lost your fertility. Dan is my only precious grandson. Since Rose is Dan's biological mother, she should move in to take care of him. As for you, I know you're in a bad mood because of your injury, so I won't argue with you. But if you keep acting like this, you'd better move out as soon as possible." Alan looked at Alan's father in disbelief. "Dad, you choose them over me." Alan's father didn't say anything, but Alan understood everything. Looking at his parents holding their grandson and protecting Rose, he suddenly understood. He couldn't help but burst into tears. "It turns out that the only person who truly loved me was Lynn, but I lost her. Everything is wrong. It's all wrong." Alan left the Meng family mansion in the heavy rain. He was so heartbroken that he firmly refused to take a car to shelter from the rain. He insisted on wheeling his wheelchair step by step to the wedding house that he and I used to live in. The rain and tears streamed down his face. He called my name over and over again in the rain. "Lynn, Lynn, I love you. Lynn, I miss you." But separated by the Pacific Ocean, I would never hear his cries. When he returned to the wedding house, he saw that everything in the house was prepared by me. From the decoration style to the furniture arrangement, and then to the four-season clothes filled in the wardrobe, I carefully selected and organized each item, and that's how this warm home came to be. Alan took out our couple photo album and flipped through it page by page. There were photos of us watching the golden sun shining on the snow-capped mountains, hiking in Nepal, and paying homage at the Potala Palace, the tropical rainforests, the Gobi Desert, and the continuous mountains had all witnessed our footprints. I still remember when the first ray of golden sunlight on the snow-capped mountains shone on our closely snuggled faces. He once said to me affectionately, "Lynn, they all say that seeing the golden sun on the snow-capped mountains brings good luck. I want to tell you that my good luck is you. I don't ask for anything else." But now he had lost his good luck with his own hands. He held the photo album and cried bitterly, drinking cup after cup of wine. Finally, he fainted on the ground due to a high fever. It was the live-in aunt who promptly called an ambulance and sent him to the hospital. Alan had just recovered from his serious injury. But then he got caught in the rain and drank heavily. His condition became even more serious. The wound on his leg, which had just healed, became inflamed, and he needed to be hospitalized for treatment again. The high fever caused severe inflammation of his lungs, and he was once admitted to the ICU. Several critical condition notices were issued. Alan's father and mother Alan, who had fallen out with Alan, both came to take care of him, but he kept calling my name, Lynn, Lynn, please don't leave. I was wrong. Give me another chance. Can we start over? Lynn, Lynn, Lynn. Father Alan and Mother Alan had no choice but to play videos about me again and again in an attempt to arouse his will to live. Finally, a miracle happened. A week later, Alan finally woke up, but there was no longer his Lynn here. He could only stare obsessively at my face in the video, as if remembering something. He planned to check my Instagram, Weibo, WeChat, and other social media updates, but found that they had all been cleared. I left no trace and deleted everything related to him. He could only look at our chat records on his phone over and over again. This dress is so beautiful. It's made of all satin and looks very elegant. It's perfect for a lawn wedding. This one is also very nice. It's a gorgeous puff skirt, very princess-like. Oh, after looking at so many, I still prefer the Chinese style. A song-style wedding would be great. It's a unique romance for Chinese people. Okay. Let's decide on a song-style wedding, shall we? Also, all the flowers at the wedding should be neroli. You know that neroli is my favorite flower. Oh, right. We also need a traditional Chinese band. I don't want Western music. It would be so much fun to have Swona music at the wedding. Alan looked at these once sweet words and cursed himself in his heart. Alan, do you know what you've missed? At that time, Lynn had you in her heart and eyes and was looking forward to your wedding with great anticipation. But what about you? You just wanted to be perfunctory. After all, you knew that this wedding was never going to happen. You had already decided from the beginning that this wedding was for Rose. Alan, you were really blinded by greed. How could you let down such a good girl like Lynn? He stroked the silver ring that he kept close to his chest. Lynn, what kind of mood were you in when you came to my wedding with Rose? What did you hear? Tears wet the pillow. More than a month after that wedding, Alan finally summoned the courage to watch the surveillance footage of the wedding. He saw Jessie pushing me from the hospital to the banquet hall. We both wore sunglasses and masks, so we weren't recognized. When Jessie saw the big wedding poster of him and Rose, she couldn't help but curse. That scumbag Alan. At that time, I frowned and touched Jess's hand. What's wrong? Why are you so angry? What does this poster say? Today should clearly be your wedding. Alan shed tears when he saw this scene. That's right. From the very beginning, the poster had Rose's name on it. This wedding had never belonged to him and me. Alan continued to watch and found that I paused for a moment when entering the banquet hall. Alan noticed that there was a pot of jasmine flowers placed at the entrance of the banquet hall. Alan thought to himself that Lynn must have smelled the fragrance of the jasmine flowers. She had long said that neroli should be used for the wedding, but for Rose, I had overturned all the wedding plans that Lynn had set. After a while, the symphony started, and a bitter smile appeared on my lips in the video. Alan remembered that Lynn had said she wanted a Chinese-style wedding with a traditional Chinese band, and a trace of bitterness welled up in his heart. Why was he so obsessed back then that he had to give Rose a wedding? He clearly loved Lynn the most, and she didn't ask for much. Neroli, traditional Chinese music, a phoenix coronet and wedding gown. Couldn't he afford to give her these things? What hurt Alan the most was that in the video, when he stood on the stage and confessed his love to Rose, Alan only loves Rose in this life. At that moment, I was in the audience, listening to all this with tears in my eyes. Becoming a witness to their wedding, and the son that Alan had been desperately hiding. I also saw him before leaving. When I was about to leave, a ball kicked onto my foot, and a timid boy's voice sounded, "Auntie, my ball hit your foot." I groped for the ball and handed it to him. I asked him, "Auntie can't see. Who are you? Are you the little flower boy today?" "No, let me tell you secretly. I'm here to attend my mom and dad's wedding today." My hand couldn't help shaking. "You're Alan's child. How old are you?" "I'm 3 years old and already in kindergarten." I fumbled for a box and gave it to the child. "This is a wedding gift I prepared for your parents. Can you give it to them for me?" "Okay." After saying that, I turned and left. At this time, Alan's mother's voice came. The woman who had promised to treat me like her own daughter. She was anxiously shouting. "My dear, where have you been? It's your turn to go on stage." Looking at all this, Alan was in so much pain that he could hardly breathe. Everything was wrong. How could this happen? The last thing he wanted was for me to know about his wedding with Rose, and the thing he most wanted to hide was the existence of his child. Unfortunately, despite all his scheming, he hadn't been able to hide anything. Alan was in so much pain that he couldn't breathe. He cut his arm with a small knife again and again. Only when he saw the blood flowing out could the sense of guilt in his heart be slightly alleviated. 1 cut, 2 cuts, 3 cuts. When the nurse found out, Alan had already fainted due to excessive blood loss. When he woke up again, Father Alan and Mother Alan gave Alan an ultimatum. "The Alan family doesn't need a useless person like you as the head of the family. We've decided to train Dan as the successor." Hearing this, Alan finally woke up from his stupor. Rose and her son were the main culprits. He couldn't let them get away with it, so he actively received treatment and returned to the board of directors. 3 years later, he became the largest shareholder of the corporation. He drove Rose and her son to Africa. "You two leave. I never want to see you again. You know I'm crazy. If you don't listen to me, I don't know what I'll do. Anyway, you still owe Lynn a pair of corneas." Rose was so scared that she trembled. Dan kept pulling at Alan's pants leg. "Dad, don't you want me anymore? Dad, you said you loved me the most in the world. I don't want to go to Africa. I like it here. Please, Dad, is it because of that bad woman? I want to kill her." Alan slapped him. "You little brat. I won't allow you to talk about her like that. From now on, I'm not your father. Get out of here now." Dan cried his heart out. Rose held the child and looked back every few steps, but she couldn't arouse Alan's sympathy at all. Rose knew that she and her son had no chance left. At the same time, I had already moved to New Zealand with my family, because New Zealand has a vast land and a sparse population and excellent air quality. It's more suitable for me to heal my wounds. In fact, when I went back to the United States for a checkup, I found out that the doctor had shown mercy during the operation and didn't actually remove my corneas and ovaries. He performed a blood detoxification treatment on me. The reason I couldn't see was that there was still a little residual poison in my eyes, which needed time to be metabolized. I only discovered all this after having a full body checkup in the United States, and the nurse who stood up for me was the doctor's wife. We exchanged contact information. She was half responsible for Jesse and me successfully escaping from the hospital. I once experienced the greatest malice from someone close to me, but at the same time, I received the greatest kindness from a stranger. Now I no longer feel sorry for myself. Everything in the past is like passing clouds. After regaining my eyesight, I invested and opened a gallery. I also started to create my own paintings with a starlight theme. 3 years later, I returned to New York for the first time to hold my own art exhibition. The flashlights shone on my face, and I answered various questions from the reporters in an orderly manner. When the art exhibition ended, I found that there was a person leaning on a crutch outside the door who refused to leave for a long time. Out of kindness, I wanted to help him, but when he saw me approaching, he quickly turned around and walked away. However, due to his inconvenience with his legs, I caught up with him soon. When he turned around, I was shocked to find that it was Alan. Now he looked thin, with sunken cheeks, and had completely lost his former high spirits. There were tears in his eyes as he looked at me. "Lynn, how are you?" I turned around and walked back without looking back. Just then, my best friend Jessie came over. When she saw Alan, she punched him heavily, making his face black and blue. "Alan, how dare you come here? Do you really think Lynn is easy to bully? Do you know how heartbroken I was when I got off the plane and rushed to the hospital and saw Lynn groping around in the hospital bed and staggering to find the bathroom? Is this how you took care of her?" She punched Alan in the face again. "Lynn was doing fine in New York. It was you who flew here from City Z and insisted that Lynn go back and be with you. It was you who knelt in front of Lynn's parents and promised to treat her well for the rest of your life. You said you would die a horrible death if you couldn't keep your promise. Why don't you go and die now?" Tears streamed down Alan's face. "It's all my fault. You can hit me." Jessie stopped her fist and looked straight at Alan. "I advise you to check carefully whether your precious son is really your own. Your Rose used to be an escort in the Chinese community in New York, trying to catch a rich husband, but no one fell for her tricks, so she went back to China and pretended to be an innocent girl. You weren't the only one of her clients." Hearing Jess's words, Alan stood up shakily. Don't worry, I will definitely find out the truth. Then he looked at me again. That glance was full of deep affection and a bit of determination. Lynn, can you trust me one last time? This time, I will definitely keep my promise and never appear in front of you again. After saying that, he left resolutely. For some reason, I felt a trace of unease in my heart. 3 months later, I received the news of Alan's death. He died in an extremely heroic way, jumping off the wedding house that we used to live in. At the scene, there was only a will of inheritance and a love letter, both of which were for me. My beloved Lynn, I am willing to use my life to declare my love for you again. Please forgive my mistakes. It was said that he found out that Dan's paternity test report was forged. After sending his assistant to distract Dan, he killed Rose with his own hands and cruelly blinded her. After doing all this, he calmly returned to China and jumped off. Since that's the case, I don't want this empty joy anymore. His assistant also gave me a USB drive. Alan said this is the last thing he owed you. Now I'm returning it to you. I hope everything goes well for you in the future and you won't meet a scoundrel like him again. I opened the USB drive, and there was only one video in it, which was a wedding scene with no guests. The big poster said Alan and Lynn. I shed a tear when I saw all this, quickly wiped it away, and deleted the video. I said softly, Alan, I won't see you in this life, and I won't see you in the next life either.